Hi, I'm AI72. We've talked about a few hot AI topics, and we're going to talk about it in this episode. I recently had a big thought about AI, which is that AI will have a turning point. The change is in the next 6 months to a year. This big change comes from Deep City AI. I think it's going to go all the way to a certain extent. Of course, after going all the way, the algorithmic layout of the industry and the change of form will make some big changes. Let's talk about this one by one. First of all, why do I think Deep City AI is now this kind of AI? It's probably going to reach a bottleneck in half a year or a year. We know that a lot of things are going to reach a bottleneck. Someone said before, why does the CPU go up to for G? After for G, the main screen of the CPU can't go up. It's because after it goes up again, it might reach its limit. There's another one, for example. We say the resolution of our display. Why? A lot of big screens and small screens. After 4K, it's on the internet. Although it goes up very slowly. There's a very important reason. It's reached a limit of use. For example, 4K resolution is possible. If you have a higher resolution than it does, the perception of the human eye can't be perceived. When the human eye can't perceive it, it's more detailed than 4K. For example, the human eye may be able to perceive 8K, but the difference between 4K and 8K, the ability of the human eye to perceive is limited. So it's not as good as 1080p to 4K. It's limited to people's perception. This is the perception bottleneck. What's the CPU called? Physical bottleneck. So, what's the bottleneck of AI? In fact, the AI of production is particularly simple. It's just that before, it's probably not enough computing power. You have to spend a lot of computing power on all the possibilities. What's the possibility of being poor? It's just that you feed all the human beings this kind of internet text, pictures, this kind of information. Feed it. It uses this information to generate connectivity with a so-called understanding. This kind of understanding, it doesn't have a logic. It's just that I can see these materials between this and this, or between this and this, between this and this. It is a very vague probability of connectivity. It's the so-called parameter series. What a mess. So, when you feed in the information, when it reaches a certain limit, for example, the information I fed you before, maybe it's 5% or 1% of human data. So, you're in the state. So, when it's 30% or 50%, it's basically at the threshold. Because after feeding you 30% or 50% of human data, I'll go up on the repetitive increase. And this repeats at the same time. It doesn't increase their probability distribution. Something like this. What kind of adapting thing is in the original 30% of the data? It's the same type of input. There have been 1,000 times. It's got different distribution rates. For example, there are 30 types of relative distribution rates. What is the maximum weight of these 30 types, right? Then, there's 1,000 times 30 output distributions. This is in the first 30% of the human data. Then, in the last 30% of the human data, there's another 1,000 times of this kind of input. There are another 30 times. The probability of the first 1,000 times and 30 output distributions is almost very small. In other words, the new data after 30%. The adjustment of the weight parameters of the previous 30% of the data is extremely small. I don't know if you can understand this. What's more, the number of data that AI is training now. I estimate that the number of valid data may be close to the number of valid data that humans can input. It may be 50% or 60% or 70% of this state, and it's core valid. For example, textbooks, academic books, and so on have been put in very early. The rest is everyone's internet. Like I did a new show again. My show's data is put in. It becomes this thing. This is the first question. After the data is online, you need to know that AI is actually a probability distributed summary for the real world of humans. Or a simulation, just a simulation. So you will look at his IQ. The probability of becoming a common human IQ is a relatively high level, but not particularly high. And his accuracy, because there is a lack of human logic from the beginning to verify such an ability. So, his accuracy I think his ability exceeds 80% of people in every industry. But his ability can only exceed 50% or 60% of people, because he lacks a thing called ray verification. But maybe in the future he can add this ability. I think it's possible. Anyway, he can't surpass excellent humans. You have to understand this. In every industry, he can't surpass excellent humans. So, his limit, in fact, when the data is to a certain extent, he is now quickly approaching his limit. After approaching his limit, what will happen later? First, he will be like the main screen of the CPU. It will increase later. But the increase is completely different from the increase in AI we saw a few years ago. That is, the smartness of AI is from 100 points in terms of AI scores. It may be from 10 points in the first year, to 20 points in the second year, to 40 points in the third year, to 80 points in the fourth year. And now it's about 80 points. Later, you will suddenly find that in the next year, he became 80.05 points. A year later, he became 80.06 points. A year later, he became 80.065 points. It becomes such an increase, but it increases very, very slowly. This is the first problem. When his data saturation reaches a certain level, his IQ will limitlessly approach. But it is impossible to fully realize. But it's still growing. This is the first thing. The second thing is that there's a very interesting thing, which is that he may continue to update his database. Every year, the human society inputs a variety of databases and continues to update it. He will have a problem called what we call the transition box. We as programmers all know that the transition box is because, for example, in the whole year of 2024, I think the English internet may be better than the Chinese internet. But as far as I know, because I do self-media actually produces more than 50% or 60% of the information on the internet. Can you believe it? China's self-media, whether it's video, sound, text, picture, the amount of self-media produced is definitely many times more than ordinary people. So in this case, as far as I know about our Chinese self-media, the current Chinese self-media, if it's quality, it's a kind of gold tower. I can say that from this quality. This kind of self-media account, the AI input rate may only be 30% or 40%. As a content production tool that assists you, there is still artificial correction, modification, color, this kind of thing. But if you look at the absolute number, that is, regardless of the content produced by the self-media, some accounts, some people, some companies, one person can produce a big micro every day, 10,000 times the content of the micro. He can send 10 accounts, 50 content per account. This one person, one company, what he can produce is 100 times that of a top micro. But from the amount of information, the output level of AI on Chinese self-media internet, I estimate that at present, I am optimistic. I put it down, I estimate 80%. Do you believe that 80% of the content is produced by AI, especially those thousands of fans? That kind of number, a lot of it is all AI generated, all over the place. So this is actually the kind of garbage it produces, but it's higher in proportion. Once you have a lot of AI generated content like this, including you, how many 70% to 80% of the content in the current paper is written by AI, right? These things are not given as data for 2024. When AI goes to train data, it is reversed by the content it produces. In the end, what will happen to it? Self-reversal. In the end, its IQ, its output results will be less and less serious. That's getting less and less serious. After this, if these AI companies that will reverse his AI tool, if he goes down this road, his AI tool will go backwards, there will be problems. So what will big AI companies do? The first thing to do is to select a lot of AI. That is, the new data I got must not have AI participation, but it's too difficult, including myself. In the future, I will have some content in some other accounts. That is, not my account, not my music account, but I do have an account. So in my creation, 50% to 60% of the content is pre-created by AI. This is something that can't be done, and I have a lot of fans talking to me about AI. So the content produced by AI will pollute AI. This is something that will definitely happen. So what will happen? In fact, some smart companies are likely to stop at the data before 2024. The data after 2024 is likely to be lost only when it is necessary. For example, our financial database, award works, important papers are lost. And some other models that produce your normal thinking are used before 2024. Which is the data of the year before AI broke out. Maybe that's it. This is the first point. The second point is that in fact, after the IQ of AI reaches zero, a large number of AI companies will do a few things. The first thing is called autonomy. He will train his AI as I can autonomously help you do this much better than the general AI. There will be a lot of such AI tools in the future, making videos, drawing pictures, writing documents, helping you do something, such as educating children, right? Talking to the elderly, coaxing the elderly, broadcasting news to you, interacting with you, playing with you, making you happy, and so on. The division of labor is particularly fine, including this AI. It may be that this brain is generated to serve a certain robot to go to the stream to hit the screw, so that the robot can be more flexible. It will be specialized. This kind of AI brain that is specialized can actually isolate the data more clearly. As long as I put the data before 2024 and the previous data about doing this job, just make it clear. In this case, I don't need to look at the data after 2024, because I am a specialized training tool. First, it will be better to avoid data pollution, improve special ability, and improve its efficiency. I do one thing for a month. It will do very well. This is the first one. Secondly, I said that when this thing is generated, the brain wants to do a lot of programmable computing and modeling. After it becomes not so valuable, what kind of large data group to train? To train all the underlying data. You and the programmable initial level of this kind of thing may do less and less. Only a few big companies, core companies are doing it. So what do a lot of people do? Go to the second training. The second training, in addition to our professional division of labor, there is another direction. In fact, people who pay attention to Llama 3 will understand that I am going to optimize the size of your model. To put it bluntly, in your training, you constantly remove the content of your library and reset it through your own recognition of your probability. Then shrink the size of your library and improve your computing efficiency. At the same time, your output frequency does not change. In fact, after many models of Llama 3 have been updated for several generations, for example, the latest generation may have some 7-bit models and some 70-bit models a year ago. The effect is actually almost the same. So in the future, this kind of thing will be done more and more. Many companies may optimize the model. To what extent? I boldly guess that this will lead to another change in the hardware industry. I boldly guess that maybe a year from now, the current smart situation of GP4 for our local computers. You may only need a similar 2080 Ti to the G memory more than 2000 yuan version of the graphics card. May be able to run, and it's already the current GPT-4. And if you load some smaller professional division models, the effect may be better. So, for a large number of people who use the model may not need to go to the hardware. Then it will bring another effect because we used to hate to 4090s in a case to get my local big model up in the air. This is what a lot of individual users do. I haven't changed mine yet. My TSMC is a 3060. It was a fan of mine in 2022. He was eliminated under the mine at that time. A rainbow, he said it was relatively new for me. I took a piece of it at that time. It was the cheapest time at that time. I took a piece of 3060 12G from him, and then I still have my own notebook. It's also a 3060. I'm still relying on these two to run the model. So my idea is probably that we thought maybe we would have to upgrade my graphics card in the future to be able to run the model. In fact, you can wait a year, you can wait for a better one. And with your current hardware, you can run in such a state. This is the trend that brings this trend. In fact, the value of AI is much faster than you think. So later, I think in the second half of 2025, in fact, it is the combination of AI and various industries. You need my AI to participate in this flow line. I'll design an AI for you. I'll give you this flow line. I'll give you this factory. I'll give you this one. You need to get a few AI positions in this company. I happen to have a customer service AI here. I'll replace you with a customer service position. I have a file type AI here. Replace your file position. He's on the ground. Do you need an AI girlfriend? I'll help you design an AI girlfriend. In addition to not being able to meet in person, holding a mobile phone camera, a computer camera, he has a real image anyway. He makes you happier than any girlfriend you have, right? And then in the future, if you really can't do it, he can develop one, right? Like a man, put it in there for a few more years. That's the future. But now you have a mobile phone with an AI girlfriend who can chat with you on video. Maybe I'll do these things in the second half of next year, including playing games. These things send time. So I think the second half of AI is to quickly turn into the landing of various industries, including that he will put all kinds of optimized things into your mobile phone. You can run into your computer, a little bit of an independent graphics card. You can run without a particularly powerful hardware. This is actually coming soon. So the burning hardware AI company may be that you have some projects this year. You have to get results quickly, then you go to the burning hardware. But your hardware, I probably have a lot of hardware from small companies, which may be more in the future, because there are a lot of companies that may have a team. Big companies don't have a lot of hardware, because big companies have to do the bottom layer of the stack and train models for others. So the hardware of big companies should always be not enough, but small companies generally use it to apply. Now you think you have to make a picture, you have to be faster. So my company has to pull it for 4090s, so it's a fire, and then it's connected together, and then it's out, right? Some companies even go to AA100 for this. You may have more of this configuration in a year. You may not use such a high power and high noise product. You see what others run, you run 0.7 seconds, he runs 1.2 seconds. Maybe the moment you click the mouse, that is, the moment you click the mouse to run, the time you spend is already a little faster, a little slower. Maybe it's already more than the performance error of these to hardware. So that's how I judge AI's turning point. The source comes from here, so you don't have to worry about AI. My earliest view is that AI is for humans, so when AI is only forced to sell AI products, companies need to force us to use AI products. It's a little more comfortable later, and it takes half a year. Like your phone. Most of the phones you've bought in the past year, or two, may be able to run some simple local AI smoothly. I think it's almost like this. Maybe after the iPhone 15. Maybe after the iPhone 15 and the last year's 8 and 3. Some of them should be able to run some good local applications smoothly. This is my judgment. I think if you have friends who study AI, you can write your point of view in the comment area. Let's discuss it together. I'm AI-72. If you think it's good, please click the comment and forward it to us. That's all for this issue.